A heartful and warm welcome to all of you gathered here today.
We're truly delighted to see such an energetic and eager audience. A very special good evening to our esteemed speaker, Mrs. Anushri Aurangabadkar. Thank you for being with us today.
I am Kamal,
And I am Rajni.
and together we are honored to host this life skill workshop that touches one of the most essential aspects of human growth, that is self worth.
In today's fast paced world, we often find ourselves caught in a constant race to achieve more, to be more, to prove our worth.
But in this process, we sometimes forget a very crucial truth, that is, that our values do not lie in our achievements and success, but it lies in us because self worth comes from within.
That's why the theme for today's workshop is so important: self worth. This session aims to help us reconnect with our inner selves, recognize our inherent value, and cultivate self belief that stands firm no matter the circumstances.
Through this workshop, we hope to explore practical ways to strengthen our personal and professional lives.
And to guide us through this journey, we are honored to have with us a speaker who has inspired many through her work in personal development and mental wellness.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to now introduce someone who brings both expertise and empathy to the field of mental health.
Absolutely, Kamal. She's a therapist who blends technique with heart, helping people navigate life's challenges with clarity and compassion.
She is Mrs. Anushri Aurangabadkar, a trained REBT and EFT therapist with over 3 years of dedicated practice in the field of psychotherapy.
Mrs. Anushri currently works with Inner Planet, a psychotherapy firm based in Nagpur. She takes on a variety of roles, from one-on-one therapy sessions to corporate trainings, career counseling, and even therapy training for aspiring professionals.
And beyond her personal life, she's someone who finds joy in the little things, like it's playing with her dogs or creating beautiful pieces of arts through painting.
A thoughtful therapist, a creative soul, and a dedicated mental health professional.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming with a big round of applause Mrs. Anushri Aurangabadkar.
No. Oh, can you hear me now? Oh, brilliant. Since this is about... Was that too loud? Hello, hello. Is this fine? Normal human voice. Okay, alright. Just because this is about the self, I wanted to point out, not Mrs. Miss Anushri Aurangabadkar is fine. Alright. How are you all doing today? I heard that you all had classes throughout the day. Are you sad about that? Oh wow, that's very new to hear. Also very exciting to hear. I'm really glad that you guys are feeling energized still. Is that correct? Perfect. So should we get started? Okay. We'll start with a small activity. Alright, very simple. All you have to do is I'm going to give you a word, okay? And whoever comes to your mind, yell out their name, okay? If it applies to you, you can yell out your name also. Or you can also raise your hand if it feels too intimidating to yell out. Is that cool? Okay. How many of you here, or whoever that you can think of, is smart? Only one name came up. Kya no one else is smart? I love how Sanket sir came next. Any one of you, do you guys, anybody like identify with the label smart? One person, two people, three people, four people. Okay. Are you shy saying you're smart? No? Okay, it's just not true. Is that it? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Is that fine? Okay. Who is resourceful? What has Pawan sir done to you guys? Is he blackmailing you? You can tell me. No one else? Anyone who identifies themselves? Oh, brilliant. 3 people. What other adjectives are there? What do you guys identify with? We'll go to the next one. Okay. Who is funny? Let me guess, it's Pawan sir. Sanket sir. Okay. Neeraj sir is funnier. What about you guys though? You're funny, you're funny. Brilliant. I see a few more hands. Excellent. Who is silly? I see more hands come up. Brilliant. This seems more relatable. Pawan sir is not silly. I see you. Okay. Alright. I'm curious. Just as an option, throwing it out there, feel free to disregard it. You can also think outside of Pawan sir. And you can call out each other's names also. That's also completely fine. Okay? We'll go to the next one. Okay. Who is strong? I see a lot more hands. Okay, brilliant. If I shift that a little bit to like emotionally strong, do I see any? Oh, very interesting. Initially I saw more boys raise their hands. Now I see more people in general raise their hands, which is excellent. Alright. The next one, kind. Who is Elvina? Oh, aw, she's your friend, she's boosting you up. That's so cute. Okay, raise your hands again. I didn't see everybody. Who? Sanket sir is kind. Brilliant. It's such a joy to see you guys like your professors so much. I've never seen it anywhere else. Okay, brilliant. So, a lot of you identify with kind. Yes? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Are you ready? Okay. Nice. Who's nice? I would say I'm nice. Okay, a lot of people. Also got a big chorus. What was it? No names? Good shot at marketing. Okay, we go to the next one. Calm. Who is calm? Shashank sir. Where is Shashank sir? Oh, okay. Alright, but a lot of you guys also. And just to remind you, this is about self-worth, right? So come back to your own selves also sometime. Okay, think if you also identify this. Okay? Next one. Lazy. Brilliant. Brilliant. I didn't hear any other name, I think. I think this is it. Sorry? Akash Bhaiya. Who is Akash Bhaiya? I wish I knew him. Okay, guys. Coming back. Ready for the next one? Okay, who is grumpy? No one? Who, sir? I feel like you guys are saying it slow on purpose because it's grumpy. Who? I can't. TG, sir. Okay. All right. One more? Okay. Who is panicky? Sejal. Who is Sejal? Oh no, she missed it. Who is Manyata? Also absent? Oh, you are here. Are you also shy? One of the adjectives. Shy, right? Okay. Do you know why I'm making you do this? For fun, but also because today we're going to talk about the self. And I think in order to understand what self-worth even is and how to value yourselves more, it's very important to even like start with what the self is. What is the self? Is it your body? You can also feel free to yell out answers, right? Is it your body? Is it your, I heard soul? Your mind? Okay. Your character? I think you said something before character. Your nature and your character, like what you are. Your personality, brilliant. Can it be what you think of yourself? Can be part of yourself? Yes, absolutely. Can it be also what you choose to wear? Yes, excellent. Can it also be the music that you listen to? Yes. Can it be what hobbies you do? Brilliant. Coming back to what you guys mentioned about like soul, mind, body. What is the soul? Something you believe in, right? Sounds like an abstract concept, right? I heard it, but I didn't catch something specifically. Could you guys say that one more time? Something that has power that you will talk about. Oh, the Babas talk about. Okay. I mean, yeah, Babas and me also. I'm talking to you guys about the soul right now. Anything else that's coming up about the soul? Oh wow, more than body, less than God. Something in between. It feels like a very complicated concept to understand, right? When you sit with the idea of yourself. And this happens to a lot of people. A lot of times when you sit with the self, it takes you to an entirely different level of thinking. You start thinking, who am I? What am I? What even is happening? What is the meaning of life? But we don't have to go there, thankfully, because this is not philosophy. I think there is a much simpler way that we can look at ourselves. I propose to you a very scientific model of Bhel Puri. Our self is Bhel. It's a mixture of what? Many things. So many things. All of the things that you guys talked about, right? The body, the soul, your hair, your clothes, your values, your dreams, your aspirations, everything. Right? Is that much simpler? Excellent. And just like in order to understand something, we dissect it, right? How would you describe bhel, for example? What is bhel? It's a dish. Mixture. I heard fish. Delicious. Yes, it's delicious. Easy to make. How else would you describe bhel? Is that it? Mixture, easy to make, delicious. Yes. Love. Did you say love? Raw. It is raw. It's not cooked. Yes. Cheap. Anything else coming up? Flavorful. Yes. So, do you guys see how you're describing bhel? You're looking at its parts. You're saying aspects about it to describe it. But even when we kind of put all of them together, I didn't hear tomato, onion. I didn't hear save. But they're there. They're there. We know that. Right? But even when we try to describe something, we use so many labels for it. That's how we try to understand something, right? It's so simple. When we want to understand something, we break it down into pieces. Right? And then what happens? Nothing. The whole is described by how its pieces are. Now, let's do a quick activity. Okay? And this is only if you feel comfortable. If you feel like you'd rather not share, that's also okay. But is that okay? Alright. Raise your hand like properly so that I can see it. Yeah? If you find it difficult to accept compliments, even if they are true about you. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. A lot of you, right? Is this a compliment? It is somewhere. Raise your hand if. Sorry. Yeah. Raise your hand if you tell yourself you're stupid or any other negative adjective. And I don't mean like in a funny, humorous way only. I mean it in a sense that sometimes you believe it and it's hard. Yeah? Okay. A few hands. Next one. Raise your hand if you over apologize. Absolutely. I'm so sorry for asking you guys that. Raise your hand if you constantly compare yourself to others. You're thinking about Sharma ji ka beta, not DG Sharma ji ka Sharma ji ka beta. Sada ji ka beta. Wow. Constant comparison. It's like your mind has no peace. You're doing something nice and your mind says, "Arey par uska dekha kya?" It's no end, right? Raise your hand if you find it really difficult to make and maintain boundaries. So if your friend is being rude to you, you're not able to say, "You know what, stop this or I will stop hanging out with you. I don't care anymore." It's hard, right? It's a hard thing to do. Yeah? Raise your hand, next one, if you constantly wonder, is this person mad at me? Are you mad at me? If you're probably wondering if I'm mad at you right now. I am wondering if you're mad at me, by the way. Are you guys mad at me? Are you sure? Okay, I'm glad. And what happens when we break down things into pieces is we have a tendency of labeling ourselves so much. We start identifying bhel as mixture. Yes, we start identifying bhel as save. We start identifying bhel as murmura. Yes, absolutely. And what this does to us, like one of the biggest concerns with why we are not able to value ourselves is because we focus on these small bits that we don't like so much. It's like, hating bhel because you don't like onions or you don't like tomatoes. Is that really fair to you? No. Do you guys like bhel? Yes. I heard a no. And I am shook. It's okay, I won't ask you to identify yourself. I'm not sure I can take it. But that being said, what happens when we kind of stick to these labels, when we stay with like, I'm so dumb, oh my god, or I'm so funny, I'm only funny, I'm not going to talk about my feelings, is we create them as like identities in and of itself. We end up doing something known as labeling bias. Can you see the pointer? Yeah. Yeah? We end up internalizing all of these things and we kind of make it our entire definition. Like instead of bhel, it could be called save. Absolutely not. It doesn't do it justice, right? And that's the reason why it's so difficult for us to not value ourselves. Sorry, it's so difficult for us to value ourselves. Do any of you guys struggle with valuing yourself? Yes, no. If no, great. If yes, this is for you. Right? Overall, I mean, in general. And the thing with not valuing ourselves is it doesn't happen constantly, right? It happens when something happens, something bad. Let's say you get bad marks. Or someone is mad at you, actually. Or one of your friends tells you did something really wrong. And those are the tiny moments when you start doubting yourself and you question, oh no, oh no, oh no. What if I am saved, or in this case, dumb? Right? So what do we do about it? You can't do that. The idea is, working on ourselves or working on any sort of a mental health concern is less about the activities that you do with them and slightly more about the mindset that you guys are in. So, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to treat you like you are Bhel. And remind yourself that even if you don't like tomatoes or onions or dhania, you can still like Bhel. Right? Now, one thing that I often hear a lot of times in therapy sessions is whenever we talk about valuing ourselves, people bring up a very important concern, which is, but Anshi, if I tell myself I'm good, that I value myself just as I am, why would I improve? Does this question ever cross anyone's mind? Yes? Brilliant. In which case, when like a bulb stops working at your home, do you guys spend some time being mad at it, hating it? अरे यार ऐसे कैसे टूट गया? काम क्यों नहीं कर रहा है ये? And then you change it, right? Because that anger is important. Is it? Is it that you wouldn't be able to change? The anger is important, but is it that you wouldn't be able to change the bulb if you didn't hate it? You would be able to change it. You can still have your goals, right? I'm not saying be content with 100% and with no change. But we often misunderstand that as I need to dislike myself very strongly because that is the push that it gives me to change myself. It doesn't. It only makes us feel worse and worse and worse about ourselves, and we end up not having a lot of resilience to keep pushing ourselves to do more challenges. Make sense? Any questions so far? Okay, we'll go ahead. All right, brilliant. Imagine this. A classmate of yours, you can imagine whoever you want to, says to you, you are so stupid. How would you react? You'd say, look at yourself first, you're stupid. Is that it? Look at yourself first. Makes sense. Anything else? Sorry? Us? I like how emotionally regulated that response is. It comes with like a sad sense of defeat. हाँ यार मैं stupid हूँ तू भी है आजा अपन दोनों हैं साथ में. Anything else that comes to mind? Ignore her. Yeah. Her. Now I think I have a hunch about who you're thinking about. It's definitely not Pawan sir. One person eliminated. All boys also eliminated, sorry. Makes sense. Usually, when things like these happen, this is how we tend to respond, right? So, working on our self-worth is not just important, when we are alone in a room. It's important also when we're present with people. Why, you ask? Are you asking that? Can you ask why? Yes, thank you. Okay, brilliant. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. Good job. I'm so glad you asked. It's because, okay, who has ever had a pimple? Excellent. And when you feel bad about a pimple and somebody points it out, how do you feel? Super bad, angry. You want to kill them, right? You want to run away. You want to cry sometimes. Any other response coming up? Okay. The logic is simple. When we ourselves don't like the pimple, we don't like it when other people point it out. which is why to do what you mentioned, which is ignore them, it requires a certain amount of regulation from within, right? And that only comes when you're okay with, having tomato which you don't like. You're at peace with it. Even if someone says, मुझे टमाटर तो पसंद ही नहीं है, you're not triggered. You're at a place where you can be like, ठीक है भाई, मत खा मुझे. You're at a place where you're regulated. You're all right. It doesn't threaten your entire core when somebody hates tomato. You see why it's important to kind of value ourselves now? Yes? Brilliant. Can you say yes one more time? Yes. Excellent. Great job. So, in conclusion, tell me the answer to this. What if someone dislikes bhel itself? Sorry? Don't give them bhel. Allow them to not like bhel. Anything else? Can they dislike bhel? They can. So what do? We allow them to. Because when we demand that they don't, it doesn't change how they are going to suddenly start liking bhel or something like that. They're not. It's only going to keep us at peace. When we allow them to dislike bhel, it's okay. Somebody here dislikes bhel and I'm okay with it. Now. I wasn't then, but I am now. And that's fine. You can take your time too. Alright? So, in conclusion, before I give you all of the points of how self-worth helps, do you want to tell me how it helps based on everything that we've discussed so far? Increases confidence, improves your reaction. Mental health is a general. What about mental health? You being bad is also mental health. Yes. It gives you a lot of motivation and the kind that comes from within, not the extrinsic kind. Yeah, brilliant point. Anything else? Brilliant. Exactly. Yes. It helps you motivate yourself to change without hating yourself for having flaws. Name one person who doesn't have flaws. I was half expecting you guys to say Pawan sir. I'm not going to lie. But for sure though. For real. Name one person who doesn't have flaws. We all do, right? I heard a much softer Pawan sir come up. But that's okay. You know what I mean though, right? Make sense? In conclusion, self-worth is something that helps you have better coping skills. So that means that when your friends call you stupid, you're able to deal with it and think to yourself, it's okay, they don't like tomato. That's fine. It makes you better at changing and improving yourself without having to hate yourself necessarily, like you guys said. It makes your life so much less stressful. Imagine existing in a vessel that doesn't hate you. It's so nice. Imagine existing in a body that values you. So nice, right? It also gives you better social relationships and stronger social skills because you're able to regulate yourself much better. And so you're present in that moment. You're able to have a conversation about, oh, okay, that's interesting. Why do you not like bhel? Instead of being like, how dare you? Right? Much more regulated, much better. It also, like you said rightly, higher motivation to accomplish goals and take up challenges. And pro-social behavior means you're basically kinder to others, which is very useful as a sense of community with each other, right? So not only are you better as a person, you become better as a group. Support each other better. So much nicer. And there is less reactivity inside of you, right? Now you might be wondering how to improve it. Were you wondering that? Okay, brilliant. My first solution that I want to pitch to you is see yourself as bhel. And I cannot stress this enough. This is the only thing you need to do really. But if you're also looking for other activities, there are other things that you can do about it, right? One is practice zooming out. What is zooming out? When you kind of move away and see the whole picture together, right? So imagine you being focused on the onion, and then you zoom out. You see the bhel for what it is. Even if it's too spicy, it's delicious. Some people like the spice, some people have less spice tolerance. And both of that is okay, right? That's zooming out. When you notice yourself criticizing yourself overtly for like labels that come to your head, try to zoom out. See yourself as a person. Sit with other qualities also that come up that may not necessarily be negative. Sit with neutral qualities also. For example, I have decent hair. That's fine. Very normal, very decent, right? You can also journal about your positives. Something that I see a lot in people journaling is we often take it as a venting space, right? We only write about and concretize the things that impact us a lot. Try also writing about things that make you happy, things about yourself that you're grateful for, things that you have accomplished that you're proud of. Anything, all of your positives come up, right? Next, allow others to dislike you. It's all right. Think of it not as your entire value decreasing. Think of it more as others having different tastes, which is easier. Make sense? Give yourself some compliments. This is something that we're going to do right now. Can you guys take a minute to think in your head and give yourself like a genuine compliment? Take a minute. And if you're done, you can let me know. If you need longer than a minute, that's also okay. Think about maybe an accomplishment that you have that you feel good about. Think about maybe one action that you did today that you really liked. As simple as you didn't want to get out of bed today, but you did, and you finished an entire day and attended this. As simple as you didn't want to eat today because it was kaddu ki sabzi, but you ate it. And now you're maybe 1% healthier than you were before the kaddu ki sabzi. Anyone still struggling with giving themselves a compliment? Are you guys sure? I didn't see as many hands because given yourself a compliment, raise your hand. Okay, I see a lot more. What is stopping you guys? Anything coming up? Is it difficult to? Is it just shyness? That's okay also. Sorry for bringing the focus onto you. I apologize. All right. Next, check your goals. A lot of times, why we think we are not worthy has nothing to do with how good or competent we are. It has to do a lot with what you're expecting yourself to do. If I expect myself, let's say, to fly out of that window like Superman, and then I fail at it, I would be so stupid, right? You can think, yes, it's okay. It was a ridiculous example. The point being, your expectations from yourself matter a great deal more than you think. So a lot of times it's not about pushing yourself. It's about stopping and thinking, hey, what am I doing? What am I expecting myself to do? Can I really do 4 chapters in 1 hour, or am I lying to myself? What is doable? Can I do 3 topics? And that's doable. I'll do that. Make sense? Okay. And very, very importantly, when you're doubting yourself, don't just sit with that. Try to actively do something that makes you feel good. Maybe talk to a friend. Maybe help someone. Maybe read a book. That'll, make you feel nice. If you don't like reading, listen to an audiobook. If not that, what else could you do? You could do a hobby. You would paint. You would sing. Sorry? Football? Take a walk, yes, but also football, yes. Music, absolutely, that works. But do something that makes you feel good about yourself. that helps you zoom out. So, when you're sitting in a place thinking, oh my God, this sucks. I'm not able to like myself at all. I'm such a shit person. Also, try to do something that doesn't make you feel like a shit person. So, even in that moment, if you're able to, let's say, help a friend, makes you feel 0.1% better, right? And in that moment, hello? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Yeah, I think this works. So in that moment also do something that makes you feel maybe 0.1% better about yourself. Don't just sit with that feeling. Do something about it. Your emotions are also in your control, right? You can do something about your emotions. Maybe not entire control, right? Situations, circumstances are always going to change. But stay with it and try to do maybe one small thing about it instead of giving up. Yeah? And of course, seek a lot of social support, because when it's really hard to love yourself, it's nice to be amongst people who do and who don't need a reason. Yeah? With that, I also want to let you know about a free resource in case you want to think about how to improve loving yourself or your worth. This is an Inner Planet podcast episode that we made a while ago. And if you need it, it is freely available on Spotify and you can listen to it, right? So if you struggle with self-love, I would highly recommend this in case you need it. Yeah? And with that, we come to a place where I remind you that if it's really hard, extremely hard, you've tried a lot of things and they're not working, know that help is always there. You can always reach out to a friend, a counselor, a therapist, anybody who might be able to help you, because you don't have to do this on your own, especially if you're struggling so much. Fair? Okay, with that, I am done with the PPT part, and I guess I can open the floor to questions if you guys have any. Any questions about what we discussed today? You have a question, but are you okay? Anyone? Is everything that we discussed clear? Maybe before we go to questions, I could ask. Oh, you have a question? Brilliant. Oh, that's such a good question. What is the line between feeling like you're valuable and thinking you're the absolute best? There is a difference between that, right? Narcissism comes at the cost of, and of course, it's not always narcissism. Narcissism is like a pathological trait label defined by the DSM. But the difference between being overly, let's say, arrogant or self-centered would be an inability to see the onions, for lack of a better word. Thinking that bhel is the best food ever out there and that everyone should love bhel equally and that there is no alternate, good food. Nothing can even come close. Versus a healthy sense of self would be more, you know what, I'm bhel. And it's fine if somebody else's pizza. And it's okay if I like calzones and if somebody else likes, I don't know, motichur ke laddu. So, do you see the difference between arrogance being more rigid in the sense of not allowing for flaws, discomfort, acceptance, whereas a healthy sense of self being more open, not pushing your own boundaries or values onto others, allowing for other people's preferences also to exist in the same space. Does that answer your question? Sort of. Is there something left? Okay, sure. If anything comes up, feel free to ask again. All right. Any other questions? What Oh, yeah, I see questions. Maybe I should stop being impatient. Note to self. Okay. Yes. Mm. That's a brilliant question. I'm going to take an example of a negative self talk, right? So let's say it's something like, I'm not studying, and which is why I'm stupid. Converting it, there is a risk of people sometimes also converting it into, I'm not studying, and that's okay. That's completely great. That would be an unhealthy reframe of a self talk, right? Shifting negative self talk to positive self talk is not necessarily about you just flipping the coin, right? It's more about staying with the reality of things, what your goal from the process is, and what the label is that is coming out. So, for example, I would say positive self talk for this would be, I'm not studying and I want to study. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid for not studying. I think I'm not, whatever the reason is for not studying, right? For example, someone is, let's say, not being able to be focused, or they don't like studying. That could be like a healthy, realistic reframe of that negative self talk. Does that answer your question? Excellent. You're most welcome. I think someone else, yes. Yeah. That is such an insightful question. Brilliant. I want to start with the first part of it first, right? Which is, you're right in that a lot of people think extroverts have a better self esteem and introverts have a lower self esteem, right? I think we often confuse extroversion and introversion with shyness or social anxiety. And I want to clarify that they are two different things. Introversion gets a bad rep. Introversion, extroversion on a number line is how interested are you in people. Introverts are okay with themselves. They're okay with their company. And you can find a lot of introverts with very high sense of self-worth. It's just that they don't talk about it to other people because they're introverts, right? There are also extroverts who can struggle a lot with their self-worth, right? The contrast between that and social anxiety is that social anxiety is an actual fear of what people are going to say, what people are going to think about me. And that is a little bit related to self-worth more, because when we are scared, when we think somewhere we're not worthy, it's like the pimple thing all over again, right? If I think I'm not worthy, I'm going to care about what you guys think about me. I wouldn't want you guys to think that I'm bad, because somewhere I'm worried that I am also bad. And if you see it, it'll be, I will have no evidence to change that in my head. Does that answer your question? I think I didn't answer the second part of it, which was, is there a middle? There is a middle to it, right? Which is, of course, on like the first layer of it, separating introversion, extroversion from inherently being a positive or a negative thing. It's not. It's just a preference. Introversion has its own pros and cons. Extroversion has its own pros and cons. And like I said, it's a number line. It's very rarely two boxes and you fit into one. It's a number line. So if someone is, let's say, 10 on introversion and someone is 8 on introversion, there is going to be a difference in them, right? And that's an important difference. It means, like, it could be the difference of a party that someone agrees to attend but doesn't agree to attend, right? So all of them are social labels that come up a lot, and they don't necessarily have to do with how much you value yourself. So that is something that would be helpful for us to unlink. It may not be necessary that people who dislike people or prefer not to stay as much with people, not dislike people, have low self-worth, right? And in terms of shyness and social anxiety, it can come up anytime related to any sort of a fear that you might have about people. Yeah, usually about judging you in some way. which is where it comes from. Fair? Yes. %100%. Again, a very good question. I like the questions that are coming up. Good job. You know, as humans, when we exist, we do have a function of judgment. And I don't mean judgment in a negative way. Judgment can also be something like, is this bottle empty or full? A judgment. I think it's full, majorly full, right? This one is completely full. This classroom, how much of it is empty, how much of it is full? The point is, when we do this judgment function, our mind likes categorizing things. It likes putting things into like nice little boxes and organizing it and putting it away. Why? Because we are very cognitively economical like that. We don't want to put effort sitting with the uncertainty of everything together, right? Which is why we tend to label things in general. Now, I wouldn't say inherently judgment is wrong. Judgment is just you taking a call or you categorizing something. When those become very rigid, where no movement is possible, right? Where I, let's say, classify this bottle as forever this much full. Is it that it'll never get fuller or emptier? It won't. So when we don't allow for that flexibility is when it becomes a problem. Judgment inherently is like a very human function that we do. When it has consequences that are harmful to other people and when it becomes rigid is when it becomes a problem. Does that answer your question? Excellent. I think, yes. Yes. That's such a brilliant and open-minded question where you're concerned about you disliking someone for disliking you. Brilliant. Here, now, I wouldn't say it's like inherently good or a bad thing that you should never hate people or dislike people for their opinions versus you should always hate people, right? It's again a matter of choice. Sometimes when you see certain people with certain opinions that don't agree with you, for example, let's say I meet somebody who believes in murder, I would dislike them and I would also want to continue disliking them. Maybe not entirely as a person, but I would dislike this trait, right? And that's an important reminder that I can do depending on what other opinions they have. When I connect the dots though, I don't see a lot of, how do I put it? The reminder is in my hand about how much of work do I want to put in to continue liking this person / disliking this person, right? There's no rigid rule about it. And when we kind of tell ourselves that we have to never dislike somebody for their choices, that can also become a little rigid sometimes. You as a person can also have your own tastes. Like you can also not like bhel and that's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's all about flexibility and that reminder is up to us whether we want to put in that effort or not. Yes. So we are talking about that extreme case where the dislike becomes so strong that you end up doing something that actively harms them, right? Hurts them. That's a good point. There are again two sides to this, right? One being, is it that regardless of someone's opinions, you are
supposed to not change your behavior to them? That's a brilliant point. So I think the answer comes into until what point is it worth it for you to put in that effort to keep yourself you? The minute it is beyond that, a lot of us stop trying. Does that answer your question? And that's natural. You're welcome. Yes. Yes. No, no, I think one after one because I tend to go off on tangents a lot and you can bring me back in. Hmm. Yes. Yeah. That's a that's a great question. Do you mean as a teacher or as a person who is going through this? As a student. I think this is one of those spaces where zooming out would be very helpful. A lot of times we get very caught up in the things we can't do, right? So when you allow yourself to zoom out and see other things that you are able to do, it gives you more of an objective picture of what your capabilities are as a human being. A lot of times also when we are not able to do that, and especially because you as a professor are asking this question, right? Professors can also give gentle nudges about things that they can do just as a reminder, because sometimes we are not in the headspace to be able to do that for ourselves, and in those moments any sort of support that helps us see that can be very, very useful, right? So zooming out and seeing what are the parts of that subject that you can do is a very good helpful thing to analyze for yourself. Does that answer your question? Yes. Absolutely. Okay, you can say them both. Yes. Hmm. Yeah. Correct. Makes sense. You're very right in that now the tolerance of imperfections overall has gone down because we're very quick to point out flaws and we're quick to, there's cancel culture also, right? Where if you've been great your whole life but you do one thing and everything is gone, everybody hates you now, right? Which is very, very prominent on social media. And I think as a consumer of social media, it's important that we develop a relationship with ourselves. A lot of times I don't think we stop to do that. For example, the reason that it's so easy for our worth to be measured by likes and comments is because we're not stopping to think whether I like bhel or not. So we only end up viewing bhel as a dish that's good if other people like it or not. And by that logic, Karela would be terrible. Overall, forever. Loki would be terrible. Right? So, in order to have external stressors affect us less, we need to stop and treat ourselves like a person first. How do you, when you see like a new person, how do you, if you want to be friends with them, putting in that assumption also, how would you approach them? What would you do? Sorry? Yeah, you could basically go and talk to them, right? You could talk to them about how they're doing. reference aside. Sorry? Try to know more about them. Brilliant. You'd ask them random things. What do you like? What have you been watching? Do you like it? Why do you like it? Oh, I actually don't like it. Would you give me some recommendations to watch? Do you ever do that with yourself? Sit with, what do you like? Why do you like it? What are the values that you think are important and why are they important to you? So a lot of times I think we stop thinking of ourselves as people and we just see ourselves as someone who is treated by other people as a certain person. So develop that with yourself. Try to spend time with yourself so that it becomes easier to let not just social media but external influences be the sole deciders of your worth. Does that answer your question? Yes. Is it a follow-up or a different question? Okay, go on. Yeah. %100%. It does. And that's such a brilliant question because it's so interesting, like you said, right? The more we put an effort into fitting in with a group that we don't fit into, we turn into a person we aren't really. And we have to constantly keep putting in the effort to being that different person. Sometimes to a point where we get fed up of it and we want to stop, and it feels oppressive to exist in that group. To a point where we might voluntarily give up wanting to be part of that group. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. It's very difficult to gauge it when everyone's trying to be a certain way, right? And so, on the other hand, like you mentioned, the threat of being lonely is too scary. We're born to fit in. Like we, as a society, we are collectivistic. We can't live alone. We can't. And I'm not talking about like an individualistic Western world and collectivistic Eastern world sort of a difference. We as a civilization, we only grow when we're together, which is why fitting in is like a survival need that comes up, which is why it's so threatening when we're alone. Now, two thoughts importantly that come to me about this, right? One being, the more that we try to fit into a group that we don't really want to fit into, we risk actually finding people who like us as us. Even if that might be a slow, very, very frustrating process. And at a societal level, as a society, what we need to do is in general be more accepting, because what is allowed to fit in and what is not allowed to fit in has a lot to do with what trendy things are. So for example, a certain kind of fashion is trendy, which is why someone who is not like that is not accepted. Things like that. Yes. Ooh, that's such an interesting question. Would it be better to be narcissistic in a society that you don't want to fit into? One more layer to it though. Even narcissistic people need society. Yeah. What society is that? No, but seriously, like what I mean is, a lot of times, now to get into the technicals of it, there are like two kinds of narcissism that are there. One is called a blowfish narcissism. What that means is the self-worth is actually really, really low. which is why in their head they make it bigger, like a blowfish, right? It's filled with air, I think. A pufferfish, also a blowfish, right? Sorry. Oh, yeah. So, regardless of the kind of narcissism, even the other one where you genuinely believe that you're really the best, you require people around you also, because that comparison also happens from the people, right? If you're alone, who are you better than? Yeah, to acknowledge that. That fuels the, in order to feel superior, it helps when other people think you're superior also. Not really. Wait. It can. Wait, 1 second. There are too many hypotheticals in this situation, so I'm going to slow down to see, one, if I'm able to answer that question, and two, if I'm understanding it correctly also, right? Now, here, narcissism, I'm thinking of like clinical narcissism, right? Do you mean that, or do you mean valuing yourself nicely? You are the best in the room. Would you? Okay. Now, here is where it becomes confusing, right? Because even in here, I'm not able to see if it's like a healthy version or not a healthy version. Because it would be too easy to classify it as healthy or not. But a lot of times, the healthiness of it is dependent on the consequences that it has. For example, if you are a narcissist in a society that doesn't accept you, that was the question, right? Which is like a rejective sort of a society. Yeah, on why does it have to be two buckets? Why can't it be like a continuum? Why don't they? I would argue it's the same continuum, right? Where you start with not valuing yourself to valuing yourself healthily to valuing yourself a lot. Too much sometimes. Does that make sense? That I would argue that it's very difficult for us humans to have buckets to put ourselves into. And there is also like theory to suggest this. So even when measuring personality, this is a big aspect that came up. We used to have type approaches, which means if you've heard of things like type A, type B, not really. Okay, basically what they understood is it's too limiting. There are too many differences in type A people for them to be clubbed together as one type. Which is why with human beings we found out that to classify them into buckets is too unhelpful. We classify them into traits where it's like a slider because there is too much variation in human beings on a scale, exactly. Does that answer your question? So there is no the best. I would argue there is no the best personality or the best way to deal with a situation. It would depend on what each person's best for themselves is and what is the cost for them to be that best. Does that answer your question? Yes, exactly. It is dependent. It is dependent on the people, the consequences that it has, the effect of it on the person themselves, how they are dealing with it, and what comes out of it. Too complicated. Not really. Depends. Any other questions coming up? Yes. Oof, yeah. Hmm. That's such a good question. I think one aspect, and I'm not saying this is the only aspect that is there, but one aspect that makes boundaries really difficult to maintain is because it's not it's not easy on us either. Let's say you and I are friends, right? And you insult me and I don't like it, hypothetically. In order for me to put in a boundary, I would also have to restrict my own self. I would have to tell you that, you know what, if you talk to me like this, I'm not going to talk to you. What that means is I'm also losing something. In all boundaries, we lose something also, which is why they are so difficult to put. So even if it's like a very dysfunctional sort of a relationship, we're always getting something out of it which would stop. For example, in dysfunctional relationships, sometimes when someone is so disappointed in you, you keep trying and you get those nuggets, pockets of acceptance where you did something okay. And that's enough to like fuel us. It makes us feel like, oh my God, yes, I did it. Like a sense of accomplishment almost, right? And that can be enough to make us, that's enough of a thing to lose when we make a boundary. So with a boundary, there's something that we also lose, which is why they're so hard to put up. Does that answer your question? I'll come back to you. Yes. 100%. Boundaries with parents. Oh my God, so hard. Who will take care of you if you have boundaries with your parents? Right? Who will financially support you? What will happen to your future? So, like, one of the most difficult relationships to place boundaries in. Family, 100%. Any more? Okay, answer. I think there was you and you. Yes. Yeah. 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 I hear you. Again, a good question. We as a society, we have a tendency of valuing something more than others. And this has like sociological, anthropological beginnings, right? We as a country, if you think about it, we're an agricultural country majorly. So it makes sense why we value cooperation more. We value obedience more. Why? We value structure more. Why? Because our crops have been like that. We needed that structure to ensure that we fed each other. That's how our society has grown. Of course, in changing times, what happens is we translate those values more, even if we're not primarily, let's say, an agricultural based society now, right? So one thing is to understand that values that are passed on and values that we receive often come as an instruction that you're supposed to do it. Otherwise, it's wrong. It's very rarely as black and white, right? Sometimes adjustment can also be harmful to you. If, let's say, if I want to be a fish and I try to go live in the sea, it would be actively harmful for me. In that case, adjustment won't work, right? So instead of thinking of a value as inherently good or bad, it's helpful to see in which cases is it helping me, in which cases is it not helping me. Make sense? So inherently, it's not that adjustment is great, you should do it forever, always, or that it sucks, it's the worst, you should never do it. It's again more of a depending on you, where do you want to put in the effort to fit in and where do you not want to put in the effort to fit in, that matters more. I think the more that questions come up, you're going to realize a theme. In mental health, no one is going to tell you, and if they do, it's not going to be very helpful, that this is right, this is wrong, do this, don't do this. Mental health, more than anything, as a field, is supposed to kind of allow you to think for yourself and decide what you want to spend your energy doing, what you want to not spend your energy doing, which in itself can be very empowering. Does that answer your question? Yes, it does. It does sum up to the self, because we kind of come back to who we are, what we want, and why we value ours. Right? Absolutely. Of course. I think you also had a question, right? All right. Brilliant. Any more questions? Yes. Good question. When you're surrounded with negativity, it takes all the more effort for us to consciously maintain it, right? And that's the thing with effort. Sometimes we get tired. So it's really up to us to remind ourselves why that effort is important. We want to put in that effort because it matters to us, right? And when you kind of remind yourself that, you would want to put in that extra effort to sit with yourself, remind yourself of like crucial things like you're worthy, you're important, you're the bhel, you're not the onion, right? To even if it's harder, even if the other people around you don't believe it, so it might take twice the amount of effort, but when we remind ourselves how worth it is for us, it helps. Does that answer your question? It'll be harder, but it's a reminder of why we are doing it. Make sense? Yes. Yeah. 100%. That is, you said it would be out of syllabus, but it is not, right? What is that but a label? Middle class, right? Ultimately, it comes to a label. When we think that, when we actively identify with it so much that we're not able to think beyond it, of course, it can be limiting. So it's perfectly within the scope of what we discussed. Good question. I like how you're thinking about this. Does that answer your question? Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Makes sense. Again, here the trickiest part about boundaries is that a boundary is not about stopping someone else from doing it. A boundary is you setting up a consequence for if they keep doing that. So when you focus on the consequence, that's something in your hands. A boundary is about how much do you want to tolerate something. So, let's say my friend is rude to me again. I'm not able to think of any other example right now. And I can't forcibly change that friend's speech. I can't make them change that. What I can do is I can set up a consequence. I can say, put up something very specific. Like, if you talk to me this way, I'm not going to talk to you whenever you're stressed. Let's say I'm assuming this person is being rude to me because they're stressed. I'm not going to talk to you when you're stressed. And that would mean I also lose out on talking to them, which sucks. But then we have to wait, right? What is more important? Is it more important for me to tolerate their being rude to me at the cost of maintaining that friendship? If it's worth it, I can tolerate it. It's fine. This friend is like rude to me sometimes when she's stressed, but overall, I really like the friendship. Or this friendship is not worth it. Slash, it doesn't always have to be like an extreme, like quitting a friendship, right? It can be something smaller, like, when you're angry, I'm not going to talk to you. Or let's say I've been talking to you every day, I talk to you alternate days only. I'm going to talk to you less, something like that. Ah, that's a brilliant question. It's so interesting how we kind of come back to right and wrong. I'm going to say something different, which is doesn't matter because yeah. And to be honest, it can. When you set up a boundary, let's say in my example that I gave, when I say I'm not going to talk to you if you're rude to me, and this person thinks, oh my god, Anushri is being so rude. They can think that. It's unfortunate that they think that. But in my head, when I balance it in my head, and again, this is not something that everyone is going to agree with you on. Everyone is going to have their own specific tolerances and boundaries. I'm not doing it out of malice. I'm not trying to punish anybody. Which opens another, can of worms about there are people who tend to do this very passive aggressively also, which is a whole different side that I'm not going to go into. But wherever we put up a boundary, it can be misinterpreted by people also. In which case, it's a good idea to check in with yourself if it is that or not that. And if it really does continue bothering you, then it's better to take that call of, if it's something that is too much, set that boundary. Even if that person doesn't understand it, doesn't change that. This is where it becomes hard, right? Where even if they think you're being mean, it's something that you're doing to protect your peace. Does that answer your question? Yes. It can be. That's such a brilliant point because a lot of times we tend to give other people a lot of benefit of doubt. Right? We think, you know what, no, it's not, even if it's something that bothers me, they're not doing it out of malice, they're just like this. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't, go away, it keeps staying with you, it keeps affecting you, then it's something to examine at least, right? So it can happen that because we give them too much benefit of doubt, we're not able to value our own boundary over their being themselves. Make sense? That's it's such a painful situation to sit with, right? And I can understand the chaos that it brings to a mind. If they indeed emotionally blackmail you and then you end up feeling guilty, there is a place over there, right? Where the reason that their emotional blackmail is working is because we end up feeling guilty about it. And this part is something that we can work on. A lot of people can, put away their, emotions onto you and tell you things like, it's because of you that I am doing this. And it's really not, right? You wouldn't ask them to do that. In which cases, it's important to work on that guilt and allow yourself to not feel guilty when someone puts the burden of something that they are doing, their actions, onto you, which is a tricky thing to navigate through. And I would recommend like counseling or therapy, especially if it's bringing up too many thoughts or too many concerns with it. Something might help you navigate it a little bit better. Just a disclaimer, I'm giving a lot of generalized answers, right? And like I mentioned in the part where I talked about mental health, these may not fit everybody. You might find exceptions to everything. For example, I think in your question I said, I am putting aside an entire topic of people who might do it passive aggressively, right? So there might be things that are not universal about this. They're not meant to be. They're more generalized answers and they can be different for each of you also, which you can discover for yourself. Make sense? Exactly that. Brilliant. Go ahead. Yeah. Peer pressure of sorts. Hmm. Yeah. A follow-up question, which is when you say showcase something different to other people, I got a little confused with what that means. So, do you mean that on social media like Instagram, certain things should not be showcased by a person, or like when you talk about how to cope with when there is that peer pressure of like liking a certain kind of thing which you don't really, you wouldn't do it in isolation but you would do it in a group, that is that the question? Okay, all right. And the question is, how do you cope with it? How do you set boundaries for it? Great question. Here also there comes up a point of weighing it for you. How important is it to be accepted in that group, and at what cost? Because it is coming at a cost. Like a forum of or something like that. Uh, hmm. 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 Yeah. You're very right in that, especially in adolescence, two things are more, right? One, a lot more peer pressure. I want to somewhere assure you that when you get older, it gets easier. And the second thing is, even when, regardless of if it's like public culture or uh, regardless of if it's public culture, it helps to know what is the cost for you to belong there. So sometimes it can be worth it for us. Sometimes it's not. So that weighing in is important rather than going with the flow and never seeing if you're okay with it. It's always better to check with what is the price that I'm paying for being part of this circle of opinions. And do I want to? Is this really me? Make sense?
So, just to make a summary of it, that we need not to showcase, and we can be different in the surroundings that we live in, even if we are hated upon.
Yeah, you can be. And again, the can be is a possibility. Not everyone would prefer being hated on, and that's on them. Some people are sorry. One second. Yeah. Some people could be okay with being hated. Some people might not be. So it's dependent on that weighing for them.
So, ma'am, is it always necessary to be in a group that reaches your IQ or type of intellect? Because as the all the narcissistic comments and whatever you are talking about, the main things about narcissism with Uday, all that time I thought about is in Marathi we have a phrase "Vasarat langdi काय shahani." Hmm. So it's like everyone else is dumb, so I'll hang out with them so that I am the superior one. I am the one who they come to talk to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so what
I
about it?
like where your mind is going with
Huh.
this, first of all. Second of all, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's again dependent on what you value as a person. If you value being admired, then it's easier to get into a group that's, or you might pick people who admire you, right? So it's again based on their individual preferences about that, right? There's no
Of
must or should
others or
here
of us?
for ourselves, right? Because there is no must or should that you should hang out with a certain kind of group, you should hang out with people who are smarter than you, dumber than you, whatever, right? There is no should. Because I think those shoulds make it difficult for us to actually find people that we like hanging out with. Right? At the end of the day, it's nicer to check in with yourself and ask, who do I want to hang out with? And then do that. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
You got one bhel from me.
One.
You'll be getting a one bhel from me.
Ah, that is so cute. Any other questions, or are we good here for today? We're good? Give me a thumbs up if we're good. Okay. If you have to take one thing away from today, what is it?
Pawan sir.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, was it Pawan sir? It's Bhel. Who are you?
Hey.
Excellent. That's all. That's all I want. All right.
Big round of applause.
So, thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to me very patiently. I hope this was nice, and I'm glad. And I guess I'll see you later. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
What a powerful and insightful session that was. A big thank you to Anushri ma'am for reminding us that our worth isn't something we earn. It's something we already have.
We are truly grateful to have you for having this opportunity to reflect, grow, and take away practical tools to build our self-worth in everyday life.
A heartfelt thank you to everyone who made this event possible. Our beloved CAPS faculty, volunteers, and of course, all of you wonderful participants for your presence and attention.
We hope today's workshop leaves you with a renowned sense of confidence and inner strength.
Thank you once again. Stay kind to yourself and remember you are enough.
Now, I would like to call Shreya Jain for the token of appreciation.
Followed by Alvina Akhtar, who will be providing a token of appreciation from CAPS.
Clap. So with this, we conclude our today's session, and everybody's free to go home. And remember, we also have another session on 20th. So that's it. Thank you. 20th, 20. So thank you, everyone.